What?
Iced coffee, anticipating a long night.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Plaistow Board of Selectmen meeting for July 27th, 2020. Beth, I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:31 PM, and Beth, may we have a roll call, please?
Select Chair, Ms. Hart.
Here.
Select Vice Chair, Mr. Town.
Here.
Selectman Ms. Keisha.
Here.
Selectman Ms. Flynn.
Here.
Selectman Mr. DeRoche.
Here.
And note for the record, the Town Manager, Mr. Pearson, is present.
All right, thank you so much. Would everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Thank you all. So first agenda item is to approve the meeting minutes from July 13th. So if someone would put that motion on the floor, that would be great. Thank you.
Motion that we approve the July 13th, 2020 Board of Selectmen minutes.
Second.
And a second from Jay. Is there any discussion on that? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, motion carries 5-0-0. I do not see anyone here for public comment. If the phone should ring, we will definitely pick it up. But the public is definitely invited into our public comment section going forward. So at this point, I'd like to go to the next agenda item, and I would like to open up the public hearing to accept a COVID-19 grant. And I'd like to open up the public hearing at 6:34 PM. And here to tell us a little bit about it is our fire chief, Chief Knudsen. So, floor is yours, sir.
Madam Chair, I'm excited to notify the board of a grant that we've received for $126,592.25. As you all are aware, this COVID pandemic has changed the face of a lot of different aspects of our community. One of that is in public safety. From day one, we implemented several changes within our department to make things safer for our response personnel and to be able to provide a sustainable service to our customers here in the town of Plaistow. The biggest change of that was implementing staffing overnight. Until then, there was nobody at the public safety complex on the fire side after 6 p.m. So if there was a medical call or fire call, any call for service, it would require a complete recall of all of our personnel to come in. For medical calls, that's not necessary on a lot of the medical calls we respond to. So to make things a little bit safer for our staff, we implemented where we have 2 people there all the time now at night to respond to any call service that's needed. So we started that on March 22nd, and that was in response to the Office of the Governor's Executive Order 2020-04. You know, he put out some clear guidance on what he expected the communities in this state to start doing and implementing to make things safer. So that's the biggest change. Now, with that, there was the cost associated with the payroll, because that obviously was not in our budget. And balancing the budget, trying to see how long we'd be able to sustain that before we'd have to move back to the model that we had the operating budget for. I came across this grant on May the 13th. I got an email from the state updating different things, and within that I see this grant in there, and that there are several fire departments within the state that are getting award money for personnel and other items. So I immediately started researching this coronavirus emergency supplement funding program, which is actually a sub-grant that is put out through the New Hampshire Department of Justice. So I'm assuming we didn't get an email out because it's the Department of Justice. Nope. It's more law enforcement based than it is public safety wide based. So looking into that, I come to find out that the state of New Hampshire received a little over $4.5 million to supplement local communities through this Coronavirus Supplement Funding Act. So it looked very appealing. We definitely fit the mold. It's a competitive grant, so you have to write a justification on what you're going to do with the money. You have to define the program, and then you have to supply information on what you're going to be doing with the money and how it's going to benefit the community. That gets reviewed by a grant committee. So this is not this money that was out there that you could just go get. You had to essentially earn the money. So I found that out on May the 13th. I looked into town to see if anybody in the town was applying for this grant. There was no departments actively seeking money, so I immediately started authoring a grant request. 14 pages later, our document of justification was 14 pages. I submitted it on May the 24th. And on July 14th, we received the good news from the Department of Justice that we have received that grant funding. Now, what that's going to do is it is going to reimburse us for all of our payroll all the way to March 22nd for that night coverage. So the town will be out no money at all for that night coverage from the beginning of the changes that we made. And it's going to sustain that model until December 31st of this year. So it's going to financially support the payroll for that night coverage from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. from now until the end of the year. That improves our response times. It's going to greatly improve the service that we could provide the community. It's going to guarantee a response if there's a medical call or fire call, a rescue call, whatever it might be. And it's a 100% covered grant. So there's no match at all in this grant. So it works on a reimbursement claim. So I had to define the payroll at the beginning. As we expend that, I supply the documents to the Department of Justice, and they reimburse the payroll at 100%. So there's no match with that. It covered some other items as well. Besides payroll, it's going to cover an online training platform that we moved to, which was $2,700. It's recovering some money we spent on disinfectant cleaners, thermometers, other loose items for a couple $1,000s and some change and some training events that we've done. So it's a very powerful grant. It's going to improve our capabilities. And most of all, it's going to maintain that level of safety that I wanted to make sure our first responders had in this community as they're dealing with this national pandemic. So.
Excellent, excellent. Board, do you have any questions for the chief? Go ahead, Jay.
I just want to say great job on doing this and you know, typing up 14 pages and, you know, that's incredible. Great job. Thank you very much.
Yeah, go ahead, Julian.
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate on that. I've seen some of the things you've written. I like your writing style, very professional and to the point, which I think helps make these kinds of grants and approvals a great success. So we're very gifted to have you with us.
Thank you.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I just want to say good job, Chris, and everything seems to be going good. And how does the family like Plaistow?
The family is adjusting well to the town here. My daughter's actually in the summer rec program.
Oh, good.
Absolutely loves it. They're doing a good job over there.
Good.
So she comes home most days tired, so that's good for us. You know.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So
That's good.
she talks about it from the time she gets home. She can't wait to go back the next day. So
Did you take them to the beach?
That's great.
they love the beach. Yes. Yeah.
Excellent.
So.
So any more questions? No. I just have a couple for you, if you
Okay.
don't mind. I am going to guess and expect that you've been comparing notes with Greg Colby, so there's no duplication of requests for reimbursements with all the other care packages and everything else that he
Correct.
has?
Yeah, we'll make
Okay.
sure that the receipts that we turn in for this
Okay.
has not been covered in another grant.
All right. And have the first two requests for April and July 15th gone out yet for reimbursement, or?
So we got to make a motion to accept the grant tonight.
Okay.
And then the town manager has a grant me authority, through that
Okay.
certificate of authority, to request the funds.
Okay.
And there's some other documents I had to provide from the town as well that are just normal documents you provide when you receive grant funds.
So are you going to sign off on that subset of the checklist for things? Okay.
Myself and Greg Colby will be the two individuals with the authority to request the funds.
All righty, great. And then one request I would have for you, that you had asked to author a press release for this. So as soon as we close the hearing and vote on this, I would love it if you would let some of the newspapers know, because I want to let the public know that this man has been here a little over 6 months, and he's already more than paid for his salary and brought in a huge amount of money to this town. And I think I echo the rest of the board by saying what a tremendous job and how blessed we are to have you in our town. So again, on our behalf, thank you so much.
You're going to see that my character, my traits, my moral compass is to do the best good for my customers. And no matter where I'm at, even though I'm not from this town, I really care about the people here. That's what being in public safety is about.
Only, we have enough characters here, though, so maybe you might want to just avoid that type of thing. But anyway, we thank you so much, sir. And so if no one has, from the public has any questions or
I'll make
any
a correction. I
further-
think you are in our town now.
Yeah, you belong to us now.
You are in this town now.
So I haven't heard my phone ring, so I'm guessing there are no other comments from the public. So I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:41 PM. And if someone would be kind enough to, I think there's a
Okay,
motion that was
yes.
written out.
I'll
and
make
if
the
you would-
motion.
Could you do that, Julian? Thank you.
I'll make the motion to accept a coronavirus emergency supplemental funding grant of up to $126,592.22 from the State of New Hampshire Department of Justice, and to authorize Mark Pearson, Town Manager, to sign all paperwork relating to the grant. The grant has been awarded to assist the Plaistow Fire Department personnel by improving the safety, health, and wellness of the firefighters and community, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic.
All
I'll
right,
second that.
thank you. All right, and Greg's going to second it. So if there's no further discussion on that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, that motion carries easily 500. Thank you for your time, Chief, and good night, and thank you again. That was a tremendous job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Are we going to have a single one to sign on this?
Mark's already got a copy of it. This is just for us. Mark already has a copy that he's going to sign.
Yeah, so we have to do the official stamp. Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is, there's supposed to be a virtual meeting from Beth Moore to give us a discussion
Yeah.
on the virtual marathon, but is she here in person? Excellent, even better. Come on up. Yep, sure you can. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're here nice and early, too. So if you could just tell us your name and your address, and you can launch right in. Thank you so much.
My name is Beth Moore. My address is 3 Deer Hollow Road, Plaistow, New Hampshire.
Okay?
I'm here to, I guess, get permission, hopefully, to run the virtual Boston Marathon in the town. I submitted a proposal. It's a route that I run almost every day, that I feel that is safe. And I just want some friends and family to be able to run, walk, jog, bike, and have some water stations, just because I'll be out there for, depending on heat and rain, sun, whatever may be, maybe 6 hours.
So could you, I guess, explain to the board how you expect the virtual concept of it to be? Are you actually going to have people physically running this course?
Yes.
Okay.
So as you all know, I'm sure, Boston was canceled in April, and then they put it to September 14th, and they canceled it again, because you just can't have 30,000 runners out there. So the only option they gave us was to run virtually, and I'm not running 26 miles on a treadmill, because that is insane.
Okay.
So what I propose is this route that I run. It's a 5-mile route starting from the YMCA in Plaistow, down 125 to Westville Road, then run Westville Road back to Main Street, then Main Street up here right to the crosswalk to Kingston Road, up to Old County, back to 125, back to the Y, and it's exactly 5-mile route.
Do you have any idea of how many people will be running with you? At this point?
I'm saying maybe 50 people, run, walk, jog, like a spread out kind of thing. There are possibly some people that want to run the Boston Virtual too that I have reached out to that said that could work for them too, a 5-mile route that you just do 5 times, plus the 1.2 miles. One of the guys that I was supposed to run with, Stephen Bryan, said he may participate in it, and some people from his charity. But I was just looking to have a couple of water stops along the way. I'm going to talk to the Y and make sure everything's all set with them. I just wanted to see if this could be a go before I went everywhere else.
Right.
Having a water stop at the Y, having a water stop, and I've talked with Jay from the Lions Club at the New Hampshire Park and Ride. It's not used very much.
Right.
You know, people could park there also, safe place. The police station, I was hoping would set up a water stop for us. And then I was gonna have friends and family man those water stops, with masks, without masks, whatever we need to do to make it work.
Well, we do have a rep from the police department. If you could kindly come up and have a seat, and maybe if you could give us some guidance on how this could work with 50 runners and what you would like to see from the police department's perspective.
How you doing, Officer Chabon?
Thank you.
For us, I mean, as far as the water stop.
Can you speak into the microphone? Yeah, so people can hear you, sorry.
For us, the police department, as far as the water stop, that's not a problem. We can definitely do that. As far as the route that she's taking, we were just talking about it over there, and I did turn around and say my points of concern are with the main street. So if she's coming from the YMCA and running southbound on 125, the first one we're going to come up to is going to be Main Street. Main Street's going to be a concern. You have lights there. From there, it's a pretty, she's
Straight
off the
shot.
road running all the way down until she hits East Road. I really don't think that East Road would be a concern, but
Okay.
it is still a drag that she has to cross over. Other than that, the only other one that I can think of would be crossing out here on Main Street when she crosses over. So if we were to have to put people in those positions, we're talking maybe 3 officers, just to stand by until such time as she could, and got to cross those intersections for their safety.
Okay, so just a quick question for Mark. Can we use detail funds to assist with that?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, okay.
Use this mic here.
Yeah.
So,
Is that what you
I
want
think
to ask?
there's a couple things here. I'll grab the chair.
Public safety.
The answer is yes on detail funds, because as we discussed at the last meeting, it's up to the purview of the board. I would say this, that because this is a unique circumstance with the COVID, and that otherwise this person and other people would run in Boston, you know, I think that this would be a worthwhile thing for the board to consider to supply the details.
Right.
Because in the spirit of the safety on something that was created because of the COVID, it would qualify. One of the things that I just want the board to be aware of is you may get other requests for details, and I think you can articulate that this might be just a little bit different than, say, some other future requests, because, you know, you try to be fair with everybody, that what you do for one, you do for all. But I think this one here is really unique in that it was created by the COVID. And I would have concerns if you didn't have police details for safety reasons for this. And I know that Ms. Moore, that would be a big burden for her to carry and have to pay out of her pocket to do that. So I would tell you that I support the notion of the board using the outside detail funds for this purpose, which we talked about extensively at the last meeting, and it's under the purview of the board.
Okay, go ahead, Julian.
Well, actually, it kind of brings up to what, but want to ask one question before I say what I was, my main comment is there an entry fee for this, and how long in duration would this event take place?
So there was an entry fee. They actually refunded us our regular entry fee, which was $360. And for the virtual, they charged us $50, which is mainly for the pre and post packages that we will receive, because we'll receive our original bib number, and our shirts and our medals. There is the BAA, the Boston Athletics Association, in their email are not requiring that we finish it in any amount of time, but it has to be in one consecutive duration.
Okay.
So with the mileage that I've put up, I'm saying I would give myself a time frame of at least 6 hours.
Okay, that's-
Hoping to finish before that.
Okay, and just to be clarified, it's totally a nonprofit thing.
Yep.
Just to be clear.
Yep, I already
Right.
raised all the funds I needed to for the charity that I was running for.
And actually, I was going to wait later in the meeting, but I was going to make a motion.
Oh, hold on,
concerning
because
this, but
John still
anyway,
has
yeah.
questions, so let's get all the questions out before the motions are made. Go ahead, John.
I was just curious, are you going to have a limit on the amount of runners, or?
Yeah, and it's not like, so it's a race for me, even though, you know, I'm still training, but I'm not training as hard as I was when I, you know, originally, because of the heat. I did go out and run 16 miles last week, so I'll be up. I'm actually go back this week and then go back up. But, it's more of like people coming out to support me, so there'll probably be like walkers that will walk like the 5-mile route, and that will be it for them, just so they can come out and support me and pass me, or I pass them and say, hey, Beth, go, awesome, you're doing a great job, you know, stop and get a drink. There's not gonna be 50 runners, you know, there'll be a handful of runners maybe more, maybe 10 that will actually like run with me, or like pick me up at the Y when I pass the Y to run a loop with me and then stop, or, you know, someone may run the first loop with me and the last loop with me, like my husband, you know? So it's more like, there's not gonna be like a ton of runners out there. You know, there will be some walkers that will do the 5-mile loop once or twice. But as far as runners, you're gonna get like a handful.
All right, go ahead, Greg.
I just
And then
wanted to
John.
commend you, Beth. I think it's a
Yeah.
phenomenal idea. And to be
Very
able to
creative.
continue to support your
Thank you.
charity is just really awesome.
Go ahead, Jay, yeah.
2 questions. What's the date you're thinking?
September 12th, it's a
September 12th.
Saturday, and I believe I had
A rain date.
8 a.m. start.
Okay. And did they provide you a virtual spaghetti dinner the night before? or-
They didn't.
Okay.
All right.
That's all I had.
Okay, and I'm going to hope that you would, you know, encourage everyone to kind of socially distance and not kind of cluster together and get groups together. And if what we've discussed is okay with the police department, I guess we should, we'll put a motion on the floor to approve this, and then have, who would be the one to authorize the details as far as, Mark, do you do the actual request for where the details are going to
That was
be
my
and for
motion.
how long? And
So if you do a generic motion to
All right.
approve it and leave
Okay.
that to the discretion of the chief and
Okay.
the
Oh,
police
all right.
department, then
Okay.
they'll
All
decide
right.
on how many they need as more logistic information arrives. So
Okay.
instead of saying 3 and you may need 5
Okay.
or whatever.
That makes
so.
good sense. That makes good sense. Okay, so Julian, did you want to put a motion on the floor?
Well, I'm just concerning the detail portion first. We haven't motioned about accepting the event yet.
Well, that's what I want you to do.
Well, then I have 2 motions then.
Okay.
Well, it's 2 separate motions.
Would they be 2 separate motions? I guess. Go ahead. All right.
So I'll
go
make the
ahead. Go
motion
ahead.
to allow this event in the town and leave it at that simple
Second.
motion first.
All right, and then Jay second. So if there's no more further discussion on this, all those in favor say aye.
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 And the second motion is something I've,
Well, let me just let her record it. Okay, so the motion carries 5-0-0. Go ahead.
and the
Go
second
to
motion was
second one.
something I was going to bring up anyway from previous meetings. And I want to make a motion to use the detail fund for safety purposes
Okay.
for elections. I've changed, because
Okay,
they're
but
under
this, you can't
public
put this in a
safety.
motion. The motion specifically has to be for this event, okay? Because we can't mix and muddle all these other
Even Tom Manager said it
details.
can be a general motion.
For this event,
event.
for this
For this
specific event. We can do motions for elections and everything else when that comes, but this is a very specific motion for this event. So you can do a generic one for this event.
I just didn't want to have the town manager come begging us every time he wants to do
No.
a motion for public
No.
safety. I'm trying to make it easier.
He doesn't mind.
No, make
Well,
it specific for
All right, I'll make it
this.
specific for this event, to use the detail fund for any safety details required for this event.
At the discretion of the police chief.
Second the motion.
Okay, all right. So that is all set, and if there's no further discussion, John, you're all set with that? Yeah, okay. So all those in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstain? All right, so that motion will carry 5-0-0. So we will take care of the detail fund based on the police chief's recommendations. So congratulations and thank you for
Thank you.
doing
Good
this.
luck.
This is awesome. All right. All righty. Oh, thank you for coming,
job,
too.
Sabine.
Yes, thank you both for coming. The next item on the agenda is for a ZBA appointment, and I'm going to preempt that. Is that Mr. Unger? Are you here? Oh, you are here. Okay, so come on up then. I'll let you. And you don't, yeah, you can lose that because I've gotten a lot of complaints that people can't really hear us very well with the masks on, so you're far enough away from us. Yep. So thank you for coming. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name's Jim Unger. I live at 141 Main Street, basically across the street. Been there for, I guess, 25 years now, and been involved mainly with Boy Scouts in town for, boy, about 15 years or so. And both of my boys are Eagles, and my youngest has been out of the program for 3 years, so I'm kind of weaning myself off. I'll have a little bit of extra time. I've been asked to kind of help out a little bit, and I know Peter Bealow through Scouts.
Yeah.
And I've worked with Dee before, and both of them thought, with my background, I'd be a good fit. I have an engineering background. I've got a degree in mechanical engineering. I worked for a consulting firm for probably about the first 5 years of my career, where we did subdivision, site plans, anything you could do. Since '92, I've been with a fire insurance company inspecting commercial properties for property and casualty fire insurance companies. So pretty technical in all aspects of building development. So I have, after being asked a few times, I finally decided I'd try to dip my foot in the water and see how it works.
Does the board have any questions? Go ahead, Greg.
Jim, do you have thick skin?
No, don't ask him that yet.
Do you have thick skin?
Thick skin?
Yeah.
It all depends.
Good answer. Good answer.
It's a really worthwhile
Yeah.
position. It's very, very important to the town. And just like being a selectman, there's no way that you're gonna please everybody. The
Yeah.
most
Oh, yeah.
important thing is to be able to do what's right for the town and for the citizens of the town.
Right. Yep.
Just want to say thank you, Jim, for stepping up to be part of it. Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Julian.
Yes, thank you for stepping forward, and I just hope that you know that since you can't make everybody happy, you're willing to say no when it's time to say no, too, because that has been a concern that people have made in the past, that sometimes they felt certain things probably shouldn't have been passed through, even though some of them do, but that you make the right judgment call, and if you feel that it's a no answer, that you, or yes, that you stick with what your belief is. Thank you.
I just want to thank you for stepping forward too, because we're always, in need of good people to help out and join the boards. So we really appreciate it.
So, Jim, what do you think your biggest challenge will be on the ZBA?
I don't see much of a technical challenge. I think if anything, as you've talked about, needing a thick skin and learning when to keep my mouth shut is probably
Or open.
or open, but probably the biggest thing. I've really I've had people say, "Oh, you should run for this, or you should run for that," and I'm like, I don't want anything to do with any election. This feels good because it's kind of it's an appointed thing, and I don't have to bother with any sort of election. I don't know if I would handle that, to tell you the truth.
Well, go ahead.
I just want to
Julian.
make one point, and a lot of people don't realize this in the public, and people have gone into positions that something like the planning board, they can only say no if there's a good reason by the letter of the law that they say no. They can't just say no because they don't like something. But the ZBA is the one, you actually, in my sense, sometimes I think you have more power than the planning board because you're the one that allows the exceptions. And so you have to really do a lot of consideration whether that exception is or is not for the best interest of the community. So you have a lot of responsibility.
And this is actually at the point where, with new appointees, we would say that it's an honor to be appointed, but there's a lot of responsibility that goes with it. But apparently, you spent a year at the ZBA, and you came with a huge pedigree and the endorsement of Peter Bealow, so I don't have to give you that speech. So I think we are all pretty much in agreement that we would be honored and delighted to have you on the ZBA, and we'd like to welcome you to the town family. So thank you for coming in and stepping up and using your time and your talent for the good of the town, because, I think all these board members have expressed there's not enough people to go around, and it's very, very much appreciated when people do step up to the plate. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, so we'll sign off on, I think we've already signed off on your appointment, so you're ready to go, and do you have a meeting this week?
Yeah, we do.
2 of them.
You're good.
2 of them this week.
All right, you're good to go then. All right.
Great.
All right, thank you for coming in, we appreciate that.
Thank you for coming.
All right, good night. No, that's all right, good night.
We'll be looking forward for the next Eagle Scout.
Yeah, well, we got one right now. He just had his car wash.
Cool.
This past
It's been a couple of years.
Excellent, all right. Okay, I'm going to kind of preempt the agenda a little bit because I forgot to do this. We have some Pollard Road culvert reconstruction easements that need to be signed off, and I believe it's in our signature folders. Did you want to speak about this at all, or are we good to go?
Beth, you want to tell them about the suggested motion?
Yeah, there's a draft motion here if people don't have any questions on it, or if you're all set with it.
But I'd like you to read it into the record, the motion.
Oh, absolutely, yes, but I didn't know if you needed to give the citizens any background information or the reason that we're doing this. Sorry, Mark.
So what's before the board is drainage easements related to the Pollard Road construction. Typically, when there's a construction project that changes the roadway, it has some slight variations towards the property lines of the people in front of the construction. So it's typical to approach the landowners and get the necessary drainage easements because it improves the area and it improves it for the residents and flooding and so forth. So anything to do with encroaching on the land to create a drainage easement, create a drainage improvement, you have to get the permission from the landowner. So this is ministerial in that all of the landowners have agreed to a nominal amount of money, and that the board would just simply have a motion before you to make that easement, which just completes the circle for the project.
Yeah, crossing Ts, dotting Is, and this project's been a long time in coming, so I think the residents are going to be thrilled this winter to not have flooding and all kinds of nonsense.
Just a final comment. I want to thank all of the residents in that area for participating in this and for
Absolutely.
agreeing to the drainage easements, as well as the ones on Westville Road. It's always nice when everybody agrees with and works together to make the project successful.
Do you have a
I
comment?
just want to make just for a reminder for the public that's listening, you have certain dates that you think that you're going to be closing down that road?
Well, so they've delayed closing it for as long as they can. I just wrote out there before the meeting because I wanted to be prepared in case I was asked that question. And Beth has told me that Dee has told her that they are mobilizing equipment out there and that they're not going to necessarily close the road right away. They're going to try to delay the closing until they absolutely have to. So, every day that they can leave it open to perform some work off of the road is what the intent is now. But unfortunately, for those residents listening, they may actually, bump into the road closure. It's been the board and the engineers and my, decision to try to minimize the closure of the road to as least time as possible. And I think, am I correct, Selectman Blinn? You're going to be affected by this. Okay,
Yes.
so.
I fully intended to go around this morning, and nothing was there, so I said, hey, this is
Yeah,
great.
well, there'll be a day you go down there and it's going to be closed.
Yeah.
But
They're going to give you a detour that just goes around the
Yeah.
circle for 25 miles, 25 miles.
So we take into consideration.
I know.
But one of the reasons for the road closure is that when you close the road, you can do the project faster.
Yeah, exactly.
It takes twice as long or 3 times as long when you have to leave a lane open. So
Right.
it's to get it done as quick as possible.
Right, thank you. All right, thank you for that explanation. So, Julian, did you have another comment?
That's it.
You good? All right, so may I have a motion to put on the floor? I think you have one to be read, second page.
Okay,
draft
I'll
motion.
move that the compensation offers related to the Pollard Road culvert reconstruction project for 19 and 26 Pollard Road and 19 Congressional Avenue, as recommended by Hoyle, Tanner, and Associates, be affirmed and paid. I further move that all related easements be accepted and recorded.
All right, may I have a second? Jay? Okay, great. So if there's no further discussion on that, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? All right, that motion carries 5-0-0. Okay, thank you, guys. All right, so moving right along, Next item on the agenda is Visions Contract Addendum. If you recall, back in June, when Mary Beth Walker was here from Cochrane to kind of give us an update on how things were going, we had talked a little bit about the assessors not being able to go into the homes because of COVID-19. We're trying to protect the workers from Visions, and we're also trying to protect our citizens as well. So we had made the decision as a board to have Visions send out inquiries by mail to just verify what is on the tax card, and hopefully everybody will be on an honor system and will hopefully send back these letters back to Vision so that they can complete their values anew. So we had already discussed and approved it, but apparently Values Anew wants it in writing, which I don't blame them for. It's a contract and an agreement. And since we are the assessors, and since there is only one signature on here, or two signatures, I'm going to ask the board if you would kindly give me permission as the chair to sign off on that, and Mark, you can sign off on the other side as the town manager, so if you guys are okay with that.
So moved.
So moved, all right. So I'm going to sign it right now, and I'll hand it over to Mark, and then we're done with that little piece of paperwork.
Do we know when this is going to occur?
I don't. I know the assessor was at our house last week to do the outside, and I'm guessing somewhere around September they might start sending out the letters, so
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, we've already had our friendly neighborhood visit, too.
Oh, here.
It wasn't Spider-Man.
Okay, thanks. All right, so that one's all set, too. Okay, so next on our agenda is, there were 3 town codes that we had tabled last year because we were waiting for our new chief of police, and we were waiting for people to actually go into positions so that we could discuss some of these ordinances with them. So I was able to get a hold of the chief of police, the fire chief, and our cemetery sexton. And so if we could ask Beth to put those 3 codes up on the screen, or actually, the one code that we don't need, God bless you, Jay, the one code that we do not need to put up on the screen is the one for civil defense, because the police chief indicated that there was no changes for that, so we're okay with that. Go ahead, Julian, I know you have a question
At least
on that.
change the title, because there's no such thing as civil defense anymore.
Well, that was, I guess that was up to the chief of police, so maybe I can ask him about that, but as far as the actual ordinance is concerned, it is up to him to do that. So I can ask him that, and we can, maybe postpone that for now. But the 2 codes that we need to discuss is the alarm system and the cemetery.
Okay.
So I don't care which one goes up first.
Loading.
I know.
What was the second one at the top?
Was it the second one?
Scroll all the way up. Find it fast.
There we go. So we are doing 53 first?
If you'd like, no, actually, Chapter 6 is the fire code, and that's the one that has the most revisions on it, because I gave it to Chief Knudsen probably about a month or so ago, and he did a lot of work on it. So, and I will email you his PDF with sticky notes on it instead of me giving it to you longhand, which is messy. So I'll give that to you tomorrow. But the first change that he would like to make on 6.1 on installation. So if you can scroll down to 6.1. Okay, what he had asked to add was rapid entry systems shall be installed to the right of the primary entrance, no higher than 5 inches from the ground. The Plaistow Fire Chief may authorize a deviation from the installation requirement. And so I think that's pretty straightforward. He also requested on 6.3, and I'm not sure, Beth, you need to even write this down because I'm going to give you all this stuff after the meeting. On 6.3, under keys, he wanted to add that the rapid entry system shall contain keys. See where it says elevator room from the second line down with a comma? He wanted to add and combustible storage lockers onto that. So that's another addition. Under 6.4, instead of MSDS sheets, he wanted to change the MSDS to safety sheets. 6.5, under type of equipment, he wanted to delete that whole paragraph and replace it with, quote, "The rapid entry system in cabinet-style vaults shall be purchased from the Knox Company with the Plaistow Fire Department specifications." And then under 6.6, he wanted to strike the last sentence of that and put in, "Products must be ordered from the knoxbox.com platform." Under 6.7, he wanted to add to the end of that statement the same statement that he added in 6.1 about rapid entry systems shall be installed to the right of the primary entrance, no higher than 5 feet from the ground. And the Plaistow Fire Chief may authorize a deviation from the installation requirement. So he wanted to add that again to that piece of it.
Francine?
Yeah.
Just had a question on the previous one about the knoxbox.com.
Yep.
Is, because we're, in our town code, we're citing a specific vendor. Is that like a standard?
It says a platform, so I'm guessing that that is a standard that fire departments would use, and that has been his experience to use it. And I guess it's basically a consistent, application of ordering products. Do you want me to look into that a little bit more for you guys,
Yes.
or, yes?
If it's a standard, I'd go along with it. If it's a specific company, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I guess that was my
Okay, all right,
question.
let me
If
make
it's
a
like,
note on that.
if
All
it's
right.
like MSDS, which is like a standard.
Right,
you know,
okay.
So,
Okay, I will ask about that, and I'll probably email you the chief's answer, okay?
and I'll look it up tonight myself,
Okay.
but I just didn't know.
Yep, I don't know either, because he said, the Knoxbox platform, so I'm not sure if it's a national system where all fire departments order that stuff, so I didn't know about that.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, you're welcome, no problem. Under 6.8, under B, instead of false alarms, he asked that we change the false to nuisance in both of those instances, or anytime it says false alarm under B, that we change false to nuisance alarms. And then under 6.9 definitions, he asked to have the local alarm at the very bottom of the page deleted. And he has a number of definitions for different or specific types of alarms. One is a nuisance alarm, one is an unwanted alarm, one's a malicious alarm, and one is an unintentional alarm. So he's very specific about what types of alarms they are. Do you guys want me to read out the definitions for this? No, thank you. Thanks, Greg. Okay, so,
Attention to detail.
yeah, he is. He's awesome. That's how we got that huge grant, I think.
Yep.
So, I think, again, under 610, A2, under fire, it says fourth false, so we're going to change the false alarm to nuisance alarm.
Okay.
Same thing with B. And as far as $100 cost, what he asked to add in there was per current FEMA schedule of equipment rates for B and C, so that we're always kind of up to date on what the costs would be for,
Can you say that one more time?
yep. Under 610.2, B and C, Nuisance alarms are $100 plus the cost of responding fire department members and apparatus per current FEMA schedule.
making it
So it will always be updated, and we won't have to, the future boards won't have to keep updating this all the time.
Kind of like market price on your menu.
Exactly. Yes, for lobsters. Yeah, good. I know. You're making me hungry now. I know. So that was all the changes that he had, and I'm going to assume that the board is completely comfortable with all the changes he made, since he's our fire chief and he knows what he needs to have to make that an appropriate
Yeah,
ordinance.
those are good, those are excellent changes.
All right, so I will make sure Beth gets a PDF for that. And then the other one that we are going to look at is Chapter 50, which is cemetery. And so I met with Mark Guilford out in the cemetery a couple of weeks ago, and we went over this chapter. There's a few changes on it, and then after the changes, I did want to discuss with you that I'm going to ask him to come before the board in August, because he's struggling a little bit with trying to enforce this ordinance, and he needs our support as well as the town manager's support to enforce ordinances. Go ahead.
Did he talk to you about what he had spoken to me about? There are some, like, plots that are too close together and things like that where you
Yep,
can't
all
pass.
the issues, all
All
the
the issues will be
issues. Yep.
included?
Yep, exactly. So I think I'm going to ask him to come before us in August at our August meeting so he can outline some of the things that he would like to do. But he does need our support. He can't just, be out there doing it by himself. So that's what we'll
Yeah.
discuss in August.
Because I actually made calls to other cemeteries, so
Yep,
to speak.
he's been really
How much
good.
does it cost for a plot? Mm-hmm. Way underpriced.
Yeah, and he did mention that. So under Chapter 50, under 50-2 cemetery lots, number F, he requested that the current cost for each lot, it says $400, he asked to increase it to $475 for residents, and from $750 to $845 for non-residents. He said even that is significantly under what a lot of cemetery plots are charging. So I'm hoping that you will be okay and approve that. Also, under the letter I, he indicated that we do not have 4x4 cemetery lots for cremation, and he's recommending that we delete that. He did indicate that they can fit up to 3 cremated remains in a full-size lot, so he felt that that number I was not needed. There are some comments that he made about enforcing no lot shall be enclosed by fencing, railing, wall, hedge, ditch, or embankment. So that's a discussion that we'll have in August as far as that. And some other concerns that he has when he's been trying to take care of the cemetery and upgrade it. So those were the only changes, and then there's one more down at the very end on 50-7. 50-7A, the very last sentence he wanted to strike because it says a smaller cremation lots may only have a monument that's flush with the ground, and since he requested that we delete the cremation lots, he asked to strike that last sentence off of the 50-7 foundations. So if there's, no other questions, comments, or issues, go ahead, Julian.
Yeah, my question, comment, just to make sure the rest of the board is aware of this, is on the fee that's paid for the cemetery lot goes into a fund. That fund principal cannot be spent by law. The only thing that is allowed to be taken from that fund is the interest. Mm-hmm. Since we have been quite underfunded for so many years, there's not as much interest, which means essentially it costs more to maintain that cemetery by the town than the interest is providing. So essentially all the taxpayers are subsidizing.
Good point.
And of course, that's the way it is now. We have to deal with that.
Yep.
And with the current fees, that even with the increases, it's not going to increase that fund enough to be able to maintain the costs of the maintaining the cemetery. And that's probably why the other costs on other cemeteries are larger, and plus they've been charging for years and decades a higher rate, so their funds have accumulated to where the interest is significant.
Are those numbers that he gave us competitive, in your opinion?
They're still
No.
very low.
Yeah.
I'm talking about $3,500 to $1,000 lots in other cemeteries. I'm not talking about exclusive lots either. It varies, because sometimes you got a nice part of the cemetery and the other part of the cemetery, so it does vary, but it is way low.
And I think his concern was you don't want to go from $400 lots to $3,000 lots either, but go ahead and make your comment.
My request would be, could you provide the board with what the competitive rates are and make a alternate recommendation when he comes? Because if these numbers are very, very low, maybe they shouldn't be $3,000, but maybe they should be $1,000.
Yeah, I mean, his own comments said that even these are underpriced, and I'd like to see us get to what's a reasonable price, not overpriced, but,
Can you make a recommendation?
well, I don't want to make that decision because
Well,
he is
no, you
actually he's the expert. He does this, he is the expert. We got a good sexton now. He knows the business, and I think he should recommend a good price. And I understand we don't want to raise it right away, but if you don't, it makes the problem worse.
All right, so let me suggest this to you, gentlemen. When he comes in August, we can make that request to him, and I will forward him an email to say, be prepared to discuss a possible increase in the lots above and beyond what we have approved tonight. Go ahead, Mark.
Just an ancillary comment. You know, I hired Mark, and I interviewed quite a few people, and it took a little while. And I know he's going to come before you, but I just wanted to just give you an update. He's done an excellent job.
Yes.
I've been out at the cemetery with him. We've walked it. He showed me, he discovered things, and he showed me. He's a guy that took all the maps and really dug into the details. He knows where the problems are. He deals with the funeral homes and the families and people that come out to try to find ancestors. And he's the right guy for the job. He and I, we haven't had an opportunity to really look at the comprehensive layout of the new cemetery that we will do. And we will incorporate in SEC, and he'll be part of that. But the larger point is, I have not had one complaint about him performing that job out there. He comes in, he doesn't ask for much, he does his job, and he keeps situations that sometimes can be very sentimental and very delicate, but he's the guy that can take care of it. He's the right guy for the job, and I just want to let you know that before he comes in. So if you haven't met him, that's who he is, and you know, he does a great job. And I think I do know his experience when I interviewed him was with other cemeteries. This is not something that he just decided to do. He had experience at other places. And really, you really need to have the experience of this. You just can't just all of a sudden one day say, I'm going to be a cemetery sexton. He knows what it takes to be a cemetery sexton, and he knows the people in the business. And he's got a tough job because there are some lots that have been encroached upon because it was easy for the people before to just move something a couple inches this way and a couple inches this way because they said, well, I'm not going to worry about it. The next guy or the guy 50 years from now, he's going to have to worry about it. Well, sometimes those
50 years is already here.
And, you know, and it's a family trying to bury a loved one. And they purchased a lot, and then they find they can't bury a person in that lot. You can see where the angst is. And families don't want, you know, burials all over the place because their intent was to be in a certain place. But there's things he's got to deal with, like benches, people putting in benches, and people trying to put in multiple headstones and the size of the headstones, and people planting bushes that aren't on their plot and they're encroaching on somebody else's. There's a lot of things that happen because over in a cemetery, you're talking about inches make a difference. You're not talking about feet. It's inches. So I just want you to be aware, but I won't take up any more of your time, but when he comes in, he's definitely somebody that I've learned to respect because he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he's a compassionate man. He cares about people. And I'll tell you what, to deal with people who are dealing with a family crisis, he's the right person for the job.
He is,
He knows how to handle it properly.
And he's kind of been left on his own as far as any kind of support for some of the things that he did want to do. And we did talk about benches, and we have trees that are, need to be cut down or trimmed. And so he's really coming to our board to ask for our support in enforcing the ordinances that we already have. And so he has some suggestions as to how go about doing that, but I just want to let you guys know that we do need to fully support him, and I know Mark does as well. So that will reassure him to move forward with some of the things that he wants to do. So I'll make sure he's on our agenda, okay? All right, so good. Okay, so we have awarding the assessing bid as our next item agenda. We're going to go into non-public on that because I want to make,
Is that the second one?
pardon?
All three? Yeah, I think
This,
it's
the
three.
third one, there were no changes on it, and the
Oh,
only thing that
okay.
Julian requested was that we change civil defense to
Okay,
EMS, and
that's
I will
all.
check with the police chief on that and see if he's
All right,
okay
all
with
right. I
that.
thought we already-
Yeah, yep, so the other one were no changes.
Got it.
So anyway, assessing bid is going to be done in non-public for obvious reasons. Go ahead, Jay.
Before we go into non-public, I printed
Yeah, I have
something
a-
off.
I have a bunch of things to go before that, too, but go ahead, what did you want us to talk about?
Well, we can wait. It can wait.
Oh, all right.
If you
Okay,
have other
so-
things to cover first.
So, town manager's report, I graciously asked Mark if he would postpone that. You guys have been really late on these meetings, the last several meetings. I want to get you out of here early. And I also want to let everybody know that the town manager's report is now going to be posted on the town website. So everybody's going to know all the hard work Mark's been doing, and everybody's going to know what we know as far as what work is getting done. So I think that's a big leap and bound into, open, transparent government, so people will kind of know what's going on in town. So as far as other business, I did send out to all of you guys the RFP for the trash contract that was approved by Sumner, and not one person fed back to me any questions or comments or anything else. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to ask Beth to send that off to Casella JRM and Waste Management. I have a bunch of information from you guys on the cart company, but that's another discussion for another meeting.
I was reading that today, and I think during the last meeting, we were looking at getting more than one option or proposal, like one with certain things, one without.
It's in the RFP, there's
Yeah.
an alternate proposal. So
Yeah.
if you read it really carefully, Sumner did an awesome job, as usual, about putting all of those things.
Because I would
in the
hate for one
contract.
person, one company to respond with options, and another company not with
Not to.
options, and now it makes it difficult to decide, because you can't compare the two.
The new RFP
Yeah.
is done very, very well, I agree.
Right.
And it does
Otherwise,
have
very
all
good,
those-
yeah.
When I was looking through it, that's what I was looking for, was those changes in
Yeah.
there, right there.
Right. So before we go into non-public, selectmen reports, I know you said you had one. I'll start with you and I'll work around, okay?
Madam Chair, I have a question to ask you, and I
Oh,
also
God.
have a statement.
All righty. Is it a loaded question?
I hope not.
I hope not, too.
If the town of Plaistow is violating a current RSA state law, do we as selectmen, who have solemnly and sincerely sworn and affirmed that we are agreeable to the rules and regulation of the Constitution and the laws of the state of New Hampshire, is it our responsibility to take action to correct that violation?
Well, I would say
I would say yes.
yes, but I would also need a lot more information as far as what the violation was and
So
et
here's
cetera,
my-
et cetera.
So here's my statement.
Okay. You want us to pass this around?
Whereas RSA 41:31-B states that any municipality that has not hired an auditor under RSA 21-J:19 shall at the same annual meeting under article in the warrant choose one or more auditors. Whereas RSA 21J:19 states any town may hire a certified public accountant or a public accountant licensed by the state under RSA 309-A:8 to conduct such an audit within 1 year after the close of the municipality's fiscal year. And whereas the town of Plaistow has employed a certified public accounting firm, Plutzik and Sanderson, for many, many years, it was incorrect and in violation of RSA 41:31-B to have two auditors elected on the ballot in March 2020. Whereas it would be incorrect to put a warrant to the voters which gives them the option to either follow the New Hampshire RSA statute or choose to be in violation of it. Therefore, I make a motion to cancel the terms of both elected auditors at the end of the town's fiscal year and to direct the town clerk to comply with RSA 41:31-B and remove these two positions from the ballot for the 2021 town elections. Respectfully submitted, Craig Talent.
So before I ask for a second on this, and before we discuss it, I'm probably going to tell you, I am going to tell you, not just probably, I am going to tell you that this is a very tricky area of law. I have had several discussions with the New Hampshire Municipal Authority, and they recommend, because of the creation language and the fact that there were warrants put out for a number of years, there were a number of mistakes that were made, clearly. We need to rectify those, and I don't disagree with that. However, they suggested that we seek legal counsel to make sure that we appropriately put this forward, and it should be in a warrant, not necessarily in a motion. So at this point in time, I think I'm going to disallow the motion until we see what our legal counsel has to
I have a right
say.
to do that.
A point of order.
This is a valid motion, and it should be seconded before it even gets discussed. So if it's not seconded, then we don't discuss it.
I'll second it
Right.
for discussion.
You are going to second it? All right. Okay, then we will discuss it. Go ahead, discussion.
My question is, it has to be legal.
Absolutely.
And like you're saying, I'm not saying I'm for or against this. According to the law, it looks like it's a position that was allowed to continue for years, but that's just my opinion. I'm not a lawyer. But in order to do this correctly, we have to have this occur correctly. So if it's true that we shouldn't have one now, it has to be done correctly because we instated it, I guess, originally as a warrant. I'm not sure.
Well, therein lies the issue, because we have been looking for creation language for the warrant, because whenever you create something, a position by warrant, it has to be removed by warrant. And to this date, I think Greg and I went back about 30 years and could not find it. So there's a lot of missing pieces to this, but clearly things were not done according to statute, and I totally agree with you, and we do need to fix it. However, I'm going to suggest that we may table this motion until we get some legal advice from our town council. Go ahead. Go ahead, yeah.
So there's a couple of pieces to this. To start off with, we followed the part of the law when we hired a public accountant firm. By continuing on, we were not following the law. So we
Correct.
basically have violated this very, very clearly. Secondly, if we put this in a motion and ask the town people if they want elected auditors or don't want them, and they vote to have them,
We're
then
still
we're
violating.
basically allowing them to break the law again. I don't think that's a reasonable thing to do, to present that to them.
What,
The
okay, go
second
ahead,
thing I
go
want
ahead.
to say is, when we chose to have a town treasurer appointed versus elected, the RSA law says that you let them finish the fiscal year.
Right.
And I think that we would have to let these two individuals finish the fiscal year, and whatever is that they are entitled to during this time period should be paid to them. But we're not doing the right thing, and we are effectively wasting time, and we're wasting town employee time let me say this differently, because I don't want to get into this. I don't want to get into the issue of
Right,
them.
right.
I basically want to say that we need to be able to make this a statement that says, no, we're not going to continue this practice, and that we have to have some decision by this board that says we're not going to let it continue. If we're putting it on a warrant, we're going to be in the situation of letting it continue. And when we contacted the New Hampshire Municipal Association, they asked us, why do you have 3 auditors? This doesn't make any sense. And we got various messages about, well, then just take it off the ballot. And basically what I heard was, Martha's waiting for a statement, a decision by the Board of Selectmen to say, take this off the ballot. And it can be taken off the ballot. And then we finish this process and we get through this. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, go
Okay,
ahead.
two comments.
Yeah.
One comment is, I think I saw somewhere that it was supposed to be a 2-year term, and we were doing 1-year
The
terms. Is that
RSA
true?
states
So we
that.
were
We
violating the
don't
law
do
there,
that.
too.
Okay,
But
so-
it's not intentional. It was not
Right, it's a
intentional.
mistake, and there was a compounding of a lot of mistakes,
Yeah.
throughout the years.
And B-
And you're absolutely right about that.
And B, I'd like to have you modify your motion to say, to change it just to say, after consulting with an attorney, that it's all within the law. Because I want to know that the real attorney is going to say that doing this action is legal,
So.
beyond a doubt.
So
So
I-
we don't violate the law further by not doing it correctly. So I agree with your motion. I just would like to see that added to it, to be clear, only under the condition that an attorney actually says that it is proper.
And basically, that's why I requested that it be tabled, but go ahead, Jake, because I have another comment to make.
I was going to say, well, why don't we just withdraw the motion and get a legal opinion on this, and then once we have that opinion, then we can
We can certainly revisit the
take
motion.
action at that point.
And I do also want
By
to
next
say
meeting.
to you, Greg, we have to get an appointment with the attorney first, but I did want to say to you that there was language that was suggested to me that didn't say should we or shouldn't we. It was very specific about this is who we are hiring, and this is how many auditors the town has, yes or no. So I have gotten a couple of legal opinions that indicate it probably should go to a warrant, but the language has to be very specific, and you're absolutely right about that. So if you guys would allow me to just table this motion, I will call Attorney Coleman and try to get an appointment and review this with him as soon as possible. And if we can get away with doing this with just a simple motion, I absolutely would love to do that because it's nice and quick and easy, but we have to do things the right way too. And I just want to make sure that we are lawfully doing what we need to do, because there has been a plethora of mistakes made for many, many years about this. And they were mistakes. They were not things that were done, deliberately or underhandedly. They were just mistakes, and that's what we're here to do, is to fix them and clear them up. So thanks for bringing that forward, but I'm not comfortable doing this until we get some more definitive information. Go ahead, Julian.
There's still a motion on the floor, though.
Yes, but did you have any more
Are
discussion?
you okay with that, Mr. Selectman Talon? If you are, I will withdraw my motion.
Second.
We have.
Or second, yeah.
We have contacted the town council, and the town council was given the question, what do we do about the situation of these two town auditors? And so the statement that he made was, well, then just put a warrant out, and you can remove them that way. The last time that this happened, it became a big emotional thing about, oh my gosh, we're getting rid of auditors. And we're not getting rid of auditors. We have a professional, certified by the state auditing company that audits our books. The individuals that get elected to these positions may or may not have the financial experience to be able to do that job. And those that have been elected have not complied with the law, because the law says that they need to turn in an MS-60 report, and I looked through this. It's a big, long report and requires a lot of actions for them to go through the town to make sure that we're following generally approved accounting practices. That's what it basically boils down to. And they're supposed to submit that to the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen, after we review it, are to publish it publicly on the website to the public.
In the town report.
And that has not happened in all the years of the town reports that I've looked at, going back to 1950, has never, ever happened.
So what's the answer to my question?
So the answer to my question is, when we were told by the town council that we just put a warrant on to remove the position, I disagree with that. Because we're basically, if that's defeated, we're basically letting the town basically go against the statute. The statute's extremely clear. It doesn't give you the ability to have both elected auditors and a CPA firm. Do you have one or do you have the other? If you don't have a
Yeah.
CPA firm, then you should elect it.
Then what you're doing is you're allowing another potential wrong on top of another wrong.
All right, so I'm
So,
going
yeah.
to, I'm going to stop this right now and just explain to you that when I asked town council about that, that was several months ago. So the municipal authority has given more specific direction about do we or don't we. The warrant language is totally different from the do we or don't we. So it would kind of remove this, yes, we want to keep the town auditors, and no, we don't want to. So again, I guess I'm going to go back to Julian's question. Would you remove your motion? And if you don't want to, we will vote on it. But I would really love for you to table it for at least until our next meeting, until we can go and talk to town council about restructuring this warrant article to get an appropriate legal decision and not just muddy the waters any further. So can you?
I would be comfortable tabling the motion.
Till our next meeting?
As long as I know that it's going to be back on the.
Absolutely.
Agenda, on the agenda.
What is it, August 10th?
Whatever
I think
it is.
It's August 10th, and hopefully we can get an appointment with Summer. I was going to call him today, I didn't have time. But we will do that, and I will bring the suggestion that the NHMA brought to me, to him, so that we can create the proper language to do this properly.
I think Jay has something to say.
Yeah, go ahead, Jay. Oh, no? You're done?
Just
You just scratched me.
thinking.
Just thinking. I can hear you do that, too. I know, that's so cool. So are you going to withdraw
like
the
a thinker.
motion for reconsideration for August 10th?
I think we can vote on tabling it.
Tabling it, all right.
Motion to table it.
All right, so you have to.
Oh, we haven't done the first motion
You
yet.
have to re-motion it, then. You have to
We still have the
re-motion,
motion.
withdraw the first motion.
You want me to withdraw the second?
Did you make an amendment?
I didn't make an amendment because we'd have to
Seconded
withdraw it
your
first.
motion.
So it's been seconded, so also now we have a motion to table it until the next meeting, and then all we have to do is take a vote on that.
All right, so you don't want to take a vote on your, all right, okay.
So why do we can just withdraw the motion until next meeting?
We're tabling it until
We're
next
tabling
meeting.
it.
Well,
Yeah.
Which means this.
With our chairman, we're tabling it for the agenda next meeting.
Which means this. So if you
Still gonna be
withdraw
on
the
here.
motion, it doesn't exist. If you table a motion, it's tabled, but it's still on the books.
I agree to
Still-
table it.
Okay, all right, so you're all set with the original?
To table.
To table it, you're seconding it?
Yes.
Okay, John, you have any comments to make, or?
No,
All
I
right.
want to.
All right, so all those in favor to table this motion, say aye.
Aye.
All right, all those, so that motion carries 500, and I will definitely have something more definitive for you, hopefully, by August 10th, and if not, we will vote on it, all right? Okay. So RFP is going to go out tomorrow, and I'll talk to Beth about that. So did anybody, any other selectmen have any other reports, or Greg, are you done with your report, or
One last thing,
more?
and that is, Jay and I have been
Oh, yeah.
working with drawing up the issue of us having a viable remote connection meeting capability within the town hall. And so there were a number of disastrous meetings that we had where we lost speakers, and people at home could not hear from using the microphones that we have here on the desk, or we could not hear the speakers. So we basically laid it out, and we are requesting that our brand-new IT group project manage a project to do two things: to basically deliver an acceptable video meeting solution, and two, to improve the town Wi-Fi in the town hall, because it's currently is a very, very weak signal, and it's off and on, it drops.
Is this a motion?
No.
No, this is a
This is
report.
a little project
Oh,
that
okay.
Jay and I are doing. And
Because it sounds like you're requesting something to
working with the
happen.
town manager, and we'll be working with the new IT group.
Okay, got it.
So first of all, I want to thank both of you for jumping in to do this, because you guys are probably the only two that would be able to do this. And my next question is, I had actually put that on the agenda for our next meeting, and I didn't know whether you guys would have enough time to bring back something to the board for that, or would you like me to wait until the end of August to do that?
I'm sure that we'll be meeting before that time, so yes.
Okay, so we'll put you on the agenda for that, okay. All right, so any other stuff that you guys are working on? Jay, do you have any stuff you want to talk about, or?
Just for my selectmen's report, I'd just say the rec commission meeting was canceled on the 15th.
Okay.
Summer rec has been going along
Yeah, it's going
for the last 4 weeks. We're into week 4. Also, the summer concerts have been going on, but they've been moved to Park this year. because of the sidewalk project, so.
Jay, do you know if the attendance has fallen off because of that, or?
I have not been able to attend
okay.
the concert, so I'm not really sure the
Okay.
attendance. But I've seen pictures and I've seen people there, so people are there.
All right.
So hopefully, we can get the sidewalks leveled and grass grown, and then we
Yep.
can move it back to Pollard Park soon, so.
Great.
I just have one question, since you're on the sidewalk issue, and it's probably a question for the town manager. At some point, will those sidewalks be sealed? I know you can't do it right away.
Which sidewalks? Because
Pollard?
The new Pollard sidewalk.
College sidewalks?
no, we don't generally
don't see
seal
those?
coat sidewalks.
Because usually what happens is they'll start to deteriorate and crack with weather and water down the road, just like a driveway will. Same material, pretty much.
Well, it's got a
so.
binder coat on it.
No, it's
now,
got
right?
binder and finish.
Yeah, it's got the,
got
so you don't
everything.
need the,
Yeah, so generally
Seal it.
speaking, on seal coating, and I just had my driveways done last year, you know, they recommend that new pavement wait a certain amount of time before you do it.
Yeah.
So we got a little time to think about it.
They want to preserve them.
Yeah, don't forget, there was cement that was paved over, and there were roots from trees from
Yep, yeah.
a long time. So I'll direct the highway supervisor to keep an eye on it and get recommendations on the time frame, and then we'd have to add that to the budget.
Yeah, because it's really, really great job. It looks awesome. It's just, we'd like to keep it that way for the future, so we don't have to redo it again.
All right, so Jay, do you have any more?
I do have one other thing,
Okay.
but if you guys have selectmen's reports, I'll let you go first, and then I can talk about the.
Okay,
Let
okay,
him
all
finish.
right, all right.
sent
So,
out.
all right, so you're all set with your selectmen's report. So, John, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, we had an old home day meeting and we're done, no fireworks.
No fire, okay, all right, I did want to ask you about that, okay. All right, because the chiefs were waiting for a decision. All right, okay, anything else?
That's it.
All right, good.
I was at the
thanks.
old home day meeting
okay.
remotely, by the way, and the background was
Yeah,
real at
you-
the beach.
Yeah.
It's great when you can do remote with your phone and still attend the meeting and not have to
Oh.
break up your weekends.
Yep.
But anyway, there is a traffic calming study, I guess, kind of in the
Yes.
progress. You probably get the
Yes,
thing,
yep.
and there will be there'll be some remote meetings going on concerning it. So for people who are concerned about traffic calming on 121A,
Mm-hmm.
there is something going on. Just leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the virtual
Yeah.
meeting's on the 29th on this Wednesday, so, and I signed up for that.
It is 29th,
Yeah.
yep, from
Yep,
1 to 3.
So
Yep.
if you guys want to jump in on that, that'd be great.
I will be there.
Go ahead, Jay.
Julian brought it up. Should we potentially reinstate the highway safety committee, or typically in the past, it has
Yeah.
been like the chiefs, the fire chief, the police chief, the highway department, to
that's
take
up-
up these
Well,
types of issues.
that's up to
I
you
don't know if
guys.
that committee is still active, or
Not
we
really.
should
Not really, no.
reinvigorate it.
Nobody
It's up
wants,
to you guys, do you want, if
I
you
haven't
want
had
to
any
do
chiefs wanting
that.
to take charge either. Because I've kind of brought it up before. I don't know what the town manager wants to speak on it, but right now, Mr. Dorman is the chair. And
Okay.
Would
I
you
don't, in
like,
this
would you like,
particular instance, I don't think they have really any control because it is a state road. So the state was going to decide what is or can't or cannot be done.
so let me offer this to you guys. Let's have that virtual meeting and see what they want to do and where they're at, and then we can also, I can bring that up to the board again, and if you guys want to, reinvigorate that committee, I have no objections at all to it, but we will need to do some structure to it, put a charter together, and put people in charge that will actually, do those meetings. So you think about that in the meantime, all right?
Okay, we have that. Let me read my notes now. Don't want to duplicate anything. It's kind of hard because we've skipped some reports in the past. I think that's good.
Okay. So just for me, really quick, I attended a planning board meeting, and I also attended a virtual meeting regarding how they're going to assess utilities, because they're using a new formulary. And I think I made a mistake because it sounded like that was a meeting just for assessors, which I clearly am not, so I just kind of listened in. But basically, they're going to do a weighted average of equalization ratios and what the assessors put on their MS1, which is their valuation. So they're going to do an 80-20, 60-40, 40-60, 20-80, and they're eventually going to kind of do this over the next 5 years. And that's really the main gist that I got out of it. They also indicated that the assessors can still use the DRA guidelines for utilities, which are traditionally lower than an assessed value from local assessors. So I'm not sure if this is going to help us out in the long run, but anyway, it's a new formulary, and the assessors will be required to start implementing that as of 2020. So
How does that choice made, whether we have the assessors evaluate those properties versus just deciding to take what the state perceives
Well,
is
I
correct?
believe Mary Beth discussed that at our June meeting, and we can basically say, yep, we'll take the DRA's value, and she indicated it was about $250,000 less of an assessment than what we have assessed our utilities for, and we'd be losing a significant chunk of tax money for that. So it's really, I guess it's up to the Board of Selectmen.
200,000,
$250,000, yeah.
150 grand of assessment, not
but
taxes.
But not taxes.
So
But-
that- so that's
but
less
it's
than a
still-
house.
It's still a pretty good chunk of money, so we could, no, wait a minute, no, you know what, I think it is taxes, and I'll
is
double check
taxes.
that,
I
it
think
is
it's
taxes.
If it's taxes, then it
Yeah,
makes a
so
big
that's
difference.
a lot of money for us,
Yes.
you know, for the taxpayers to have to
It
pick up the
is.
tab for. And so you could just take that off of their assessing contract, and it ranges from about $15,000 to $25,000 to do that on an assessing contract. But I think the cost basis, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's like, of course, we're going to pick the one that garners us the most taxes.
Do we have the choice?
Yeah, we're the Board of Assessors, so we
have
can
the
do
choice.
that.
If they're proposing DRA values, we can say, no, we don't want to do that?
Yes, we can have our assessors do
So
it.
it's not really dependent upon the assessor that we pick?
No, we can specify to the assessor, we don't
Okay.
want you to do the utilities, we're going to take the DRA guidelines and save maybe
Yeah.
15 grand off the assessing contract.
But I
But
think-
we'll lose 250
Yeah.
grand off of taxes, so that was a no-brainer
Yeah.
to me.
You think if someone from the state, the DRA, trying to cover an entire state, it's
Right.
almost like not having the skin in the game versus
Correct.
the investment you take to have them do it locally and look at it
Yes.
with
Yep.
more detailed eyes. Because nobody from the state's going to cover the whole state. Think about it.
To-
In same detail.
To me, what's
Yeah.
really important is if we're picking
Yeah.
an assessor and they have a history of using DRA, I want to know that we can
Yeah.
say, no, we want you to assess that property.
Yeah.
We do not want you to pick DRA values.
We want you to
So-
do an independent,
Correct.
honest evaluation.
So that's why I want to know that we do
Okay.
have the power to do
That-
that.
And that's
Thank
going to
you.
segue into our non-public section,
Yeah.
so that was
Yes.
a great question.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks. All right, so Mark, did you have something else that you wanted to discuss with us before we go into a non-public?
Just wanted to announce to the board that, two things. Just a reminder about the Wednesday and Thursday, the COVID-19 discussion and update that the
Yes.
board is invited to. There's 3 sessions. I can only mandate employees to be there. I can't mandate for
No, I
you,
know.
but it'd be good if you could attend one of the sessions.
I think
up for
Jay
Wednesday.
and I have already signed
Signed
up
up for
for
Wednesday.
it. Did you sign up for it too?
Is
Okay,
this
yep,
going
so.
to be filmed?
We're going to record at least one of the sessions so that we can then use that as a fill-in for somebody that could otherwise not make it.
I'll be out of town that week, so I'll be happy to watch
Okay.
that.
Okay,
If it's going to
good.
be filmed, yes.
And then the second thing is that just came in today by email, and let me see what time it came in. It came in at 3:56 PM. So the Westville Road Park and Ride, the New Hampshire Department of Transportation has put that property on a list to dispose of that property. So I did respond, I gave you a copy of the email, and I just simply said, can you give me a bird's eye view of what the disposal process may look like? In other words, if the town of Plaistow is interested in this parcel, what would it take to engage the state to acquire this parcel? I wanted you as the board, because you're the one to decide to acquire property, to, it's hot off the press, 4 o'clock or 3:59 or whatever they notified me. So I guess you'd need to know more information, which I'm
Yes.
asking for.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, if you have any thoughts, you got time to think about it. I just wanted you to know that that property is being put up for surplus. And then let me know if there's a consensus for interest or not.
Could you also, in that meantime, give us a few suggestions as to what it may be used for if the town does decide to purchase it?
Well, I could, but, you've all been here longer than me. We've certainly covered the basis for a public safety complex, for a highway garage. You've got a library, you've got a town hall. So, we've got enough town buildings. You've got a combination of some senior buildings with the Vic Geary and some other senior type event holders around. I don't really have a use.
Courthouse?
And we just acquired the courthouse for use.
No, I'm
A
saying.
courthouse, yeah. I think the courthouse they were not amenable to building anything because we did ask them that.
So now we just basically have another building for use owned by the town.
All right,
which-
okay. So,
So you've got time to think about it.
yep, all right. So we can put that on the next agenda as well, yeah.
If they're disposing of it, I don't know, what does that mean?
Well, that's what I asked them.
$100,000, $150,000?
That's why I asked them.
A dollar.
And, they could put it up for the highest bidder. That's why I asked the question. What's your process and what are we looking at here?
Would they give, was there a potential they would give the town the first
That's
preference?
why I'm asking.
Yeah, yeah,
That's why I'm
yeah.
asking. So, but you have 100,000 plus interest in that, that account that you established a couple of years ago by warrant
Right,
article.
right.
So, you've really limited because
Mm-hmm.
they got 100 plus interest. So, I'll wait to hear back.
Okay,
And
thank
I'll
you.
keep you advised.
All right,
But I don't have a thought
okay,
about what you need.
all right,
It's planning ahead.
all righty. Good, did you want to bring up something else, Jay? Go ahead.
Yeah, just before we go into non-public, I had something printed off. I put together a little spreadsheet. It's a long piece of paper. And basically, it's the assessing budget for the last 5 years. And I just wanted to show everyone, just to put it all in one little sheet. At least over the last 2 years, we're looking at expending almost $500,000 just in assessing, and I know we're doing the software upgrade to do that, but I guess, and you guys have been on the board longer, but like, what's the end goal with upgrading this? Are we expecting, people's property taxes to go down? Are we expecting, I'm just putting this out there, and it just, when I looked at the numbers, I'm like, I raised an eyebrow that over the last couple of years, we spent very close to $500,000 on this, so.
So,
And going forward with, we have the RFPs going forward, some of these years, we've expended over the budget, under the budget. In some cases, it's only been a minimal amount, but in other cases, it was pretty significant. But if we're going to be picking a new assessor or an assessor through this RFP process, are we expecting those line items to either go down to whatever the agreement is that we're getting into them? I know there's a lot of questions there, but I just, looking at it, it brought up a lot of stuff, so.
all right, so maybe I can answer a bunch of those for you because I've been on the budget committee and on the board for 5 years. So if you look at 2016, there was a jump on the expenditure, and that was when values anew was done. So there was a little bit more properties than what was expected there. 2017 and 18, they spent less money than what they had budgeted, and that was because we asked them not to do a statistical update on those years, okay? So 2019, obviously, that was a statistical update that we requested that was not in their contract because we were looking at a 60% equalization ratio, and we were all concerned that we were going to get walloped this year with a huge tax assessment. So there was $15,000 in that, and there was also a utility contract that was not in the original assessment either, and that was like ding, ding, ding. That's why when we did the RFP for this year's assessing, we included utilities in it, because there's always little bits and pieces, and that was for $25,000. So that's where that extra $40,000 came from. And of course, in 2020, we had $155,000 worth of values anew and new software. So, and Julian was on the,
155.
Pardon?
155, is that what you said?
Approximately, yeah. So Julian and I were on the board when the board made the decision a couple of years ago, was what, 2 or 3 years ago, that we decided that it would be more equitable for not only, mostly the residents, but also the commercial properties, was for us to do values anew and assess everybody equally across the board, rather than trying to do what was, quote, proportional, because proportional is never equal, because we sell a lot more residential properties than we do commercial properties. And so a lot of times those commercial properties are thrown out because there's not enough in the mix to be sold. So that was the direction that the board had gone in. We had also looked at new software that specialized in assessing commercial properties. So, you know, the little building blocks kind of had to be made. So I guess future boards are going to need to make that decision as to whether they want to do statistical updates for, you know, 15 or 20 grand every year, as opposed to just holding off and doing values anew once every 5 years, or potentially sooner if, you know, property values go crazy again. So that was the thinking of the board at that point in time. So when we did the RFP, which we're going to discuss in a few minutes, that's what we had in mind. Go ahead, Julian.
To explain what they used to do, we kind of stopped it a couple of years ago.
Right.
Because it just didn't really make sense. It makes sense, kind of, but it didn't make sense when you really thought of the reality of it. They were doing 25% of the properties each year, but there'd be a different set of 25%. And then in the end, they do values anew using that information.
Right.
Well, some of the information was current, some of it was 1 year old, some was 2 years old, some was 3 years old.
Right.
So how are you really getting a fair assessment across the board when all the data you were acquiring wasn't necessarily at the same time?
Right.
And it was.
And somebody was going to make out on it, somebody wasn't going to make out, and there was no telling which one it was going to be, depending on where the market was going. So then we says, you know, the only fair way to do it, look at all the properties, assess them all at the same time in the same year, and not do the in-between years.
Right.
Now, what that causes, though, is there'll be a larger cost in that 1 year, instead of distributing here, 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 here. So we would have to, basically, we talked about creating a
warrant
fund
article.
so that we could
Yep.
level fund it throughout a 5-year period, so it wouldn't be one jump in the 5th year to pay for it, which is going to probably be a discussion at the budget meeting.
And a lot of times, too, prior boards were very concerned about that DRA requirement about being between 90 and 100%. 110% of assessed values. And I think the boards were too scared to kind of push back on the DRA. That was not a law or a requirement, that was a suggestion. And the only thing we are required to do is to reevaluate all town properties once every 5 years. We can do it once every 2 or 3 years if we want, but we got a little bit more information that we are not required to do that. It makes sense in a way because it minimizes the tax burden year after year after year. But mathematically, if you're taking a percentage of a percentage every year, you're going to wind up paying more taxes within that 5-year period than if you do it once every 5 years. And yes, you may take a hit once every 5 years, but in the long term, you pay less taxes doing it like that. So go ahead, Jay. That was the thinking of the board.
I guess my concern with doing it every 5 years is you don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. The housing market could collapse and assessments could go down or could keep going up. And in 5 years, your taxes could go even higher, or they could drop.
Well, actually, I understand what you're saying.
Or the
But your value of your
assessments.
property
Sorry,
doesn't necessarily
the
mean what you
assessments.
pay in taxes.
Right.
Because the taxes is based on the expenditures of the town.
appropriations.
Yes, I'm
Right.
sorry. I meant to say the assessed value
Right.
could either go up or down in those
Right.
5 years, and depending
Yep.
on whatever the tax rate is at that moment in time, you could potentially have an increase or a decrease, so.
But it's the proportionality of this that allows us to be fair. So basically, even though you're not assessing the property for 4 years, all the values remain the same. So we still pay the same share of the taxes. In the 5th year, the prices may go way up, but as long as the proportion is the same, the taxes should be, the percent of taxes we pay should be relatively the same.
And it doesn't mean you're.
And people don't understand that. They think that if my property was $300,000 and after 5 years it's now $500,000, I'm going to pay a huge tax bill. Not necessarily.
No.
Because everybody else is
Your
going up and
taxes
down,
could
too.
go down if there's more property inside of the town, more valuation in the town, and if the budget remains the same or goes down or goes up.
And the other thing, it doesn't mean if you don't do it every 5 years that your valuation doesn't actually change, because they do a calculation based on the overall market on your property every year anyway. But it's proportionate to the same, to everybody. In other words, it doesn't mean your value, if your house was worth $300,000, it doesn't mean it stays $300,000 for 5 years.
So isn't that like
Yeah.
a statistical analysis?
You know, I think
Yeah.
we're getting into
Yeah.
like
This is
details and
important.
pucker brushes.
This is important.
So, yes, it is, but.
This is extremely important.
Yes, it is.
And before we go in and we pick a contract,
Yeah.
I beg to differ with you. I think these are important things to talk out.
And before we do, I would like to acknowledge Jay, because he's had his hand up since, you know, you guys are having a conversation, but we need to make sure he's heard.
I just wanted to say, so we're not bound, like, we're the assessors, so we're not bound. So in 2 years, if something goes south and we have to make an adjustment, we
Yeah.
can potentially do a statistical update.
Exactly, yes.
And reassess and.
Yes, and it would be at an additional cost to the 3-year contract, because we didn't put statistical updates in that contract, but absolutely,
Yeah.
you can change that however which way you wish, yes.
Right.
So, all right, go ahead, and then
I think
I'll
to
have you
answer
talk.
Jay's question, we are responsible by law to do an evaluation every 5 years, and B, to always make sure it's fair and equitable. Those are the two things we're bound by. That's it.
Yeah,
I would think if we were doing the proportional, the 25%, that every year they would do, and then instead of waiting at the 5 years, that you're just using something from 4 years ago,
Well-
that you would reevaluate everyone instead of, but.
But the data gets updated. If someone builds an extra room on their house or something, that automatically gets added into
Right.
their tax because it goes through the,
building
it goes through the
department.
building department.
Right.
Those things automatically get updated. If you add something to your house,
Oh, yeah.
it will change the value of your property.
Put a deck on,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
assessor was out a couple weeks later after.
Yeah, your
Yeah.
assessment
Close
will
the
change the
permit,
next
so.
year.
All right,
Yeah.
so, okay, so go ahead,
So the
Greg,
question
yeah.
that I have, and I can direct this at you or to Julian. I thought I heard you say that every year, all the properties' assessed values go up a percentage. Did I hear that correctly, or were you talking about?
You ever got the same
Let me
tax
finish,
bill every year?
Let me finish. Or were you talking about what you just said?
Yeah.
If I build another, if I build another room to my house, then that value will increase. But are you saying that all properties increase every year, even though we're assessing once every 5 years?
Well, that detail, I'll have to ask the assessor.
But,
I'm not gonna
no,
answer that
that question sounds to me like, no, that's not,
That's not the
does
case.
not appear to be the case, no,
Okay.
no.
So if your property is at 300,000 in 5 years, it stays at
Yeah.
300,000 until we reassess at the 5-year point.
But it doesn't mean it won't
Correct.
sell for higher, it depends on the market. So if you're selling or buying the property, it'll go by whatever the market says it is, regardless of your assessment.
I'm not understanding, help me understand.
Okay, so let me see if I can
There's
make
two
you
categories. People
understand.
who want to keep their house is one thing. People who want to sell or buy the house, they won't be held back because they'll get the market price.
Okay,
Right,
so-
Doesn't hurt.
but I'm talking about the assessment.
Okay, assessments are different from selling prices.
understand.
And obviously, realtors base their selling price on the assessments. Now, you just saw last year and a year before, where assessed values were significantly lower than what the selling price was for.
Correct.
So, and I'm going to guess with all these people leaving the cities that, residential properties in suburbs are going to be hot for the next couple of years. So that is up to future boards as to whether you feel that your assessed values, and your assessor will tell you, whoever we pick as an assessor will say, you guys are at 80% of values and you may want to think about doing a statistical update. And it's up to the board to decide, well, let's do condos, or which group of buildings are most significantly affected. And so you can decide whether to do a sector of the real estate market or the whole thing or none or whatever. It's a very flexible and fluid thing. For the purposes of this RFP, though, we did not include statistical updates because, as you can see from Jay's spreadsheet, the 2 years that we said, no, we're not going to do that, they were under budget. So I think that's something that you guys can take a look at in the future to say, okay, the market's still pretty hot. We may want to put this into the budget for the next year and talk to your assessor about what is it going to take to add an addendum onto the contracts. So does that clarify stuff for you
Yes,
guys, I
that's-
guess? Yeah.
And I think
all
to
right.
understand, it's not, it's a complicated issue. For instance, let's say another town's done their assessments, they've gone up, our town didn't. The state still compensates for the differences, because they'll say, you're really at 80%. The state's going to add for their state tax, they're going to add that 20% in. They don't let you get away with trying to cheat the system either way. It's a complicated thing, which the assessor explained to us many times in the past, how they calculate the taxes and stuff.
The only thing
Yeah.
that we basically have control
Yeah.
of is a municipal tax rate. You know, the state and the
Yeah.
county and the school is out of our sphere of
Exactly.
influence.
Right.
So, you know, we can only control what we can control. Go ahead, Mark.
I'm not going to weigh into this.
You
other than to
shouldn't,
say-
I know.
Other than to say, just for a point of clarification, because Jay had that spreadsheet,
Yeah.
and he was illustrating how much money was spent last year.
Yeah.
My comment is going to be limited to that. In the budget process, if you recall, the increase in assessing was offset by a decrease in the operational budget. Overall, the operational budget did not take the hit for the increase in assessing. Actually, the operational budget, we had to find that because the board gave me a directive to come to them with a number. So just for clarification, there wasn't a extra, there was
Right.
money that was really transferred from what normally would be the operational budget that got transferred to the assessing line items. So it wasn't an additional amount of money.
But I guess the point that I was trying to make is, over the next couple of years, potentially, we could see a level-funded assessing line.
Yes.
Well, I think you're gonna
Save
see a
money there.
decrease. You're gonna
Oh,
see-
yeah.
Or
you-
definitely a
well,
decrease,
level-funded,
yeah.
but it'll be decreased and level-funded over a
Yep.
few years.
Yep, and that's the way we tried to craft the RFP, exactly
And then
to
in
do
5
that.
years, or the statistical, if a statistical update needed,
Mm-hmm.
then you'll see the increase.
And I think one of the things we talked about is putting a warrant article this year and to
Yep.
create that level, that fund, to
Yep.
make it so it's level funded, so
Yes.
there's not as much jumping around.
Yeah, it's an expendable trust fund, yeah. Okay, so if you guys don't have any more questions publicly about assessing, are you laughing at me, you guys?
No,
Come
I-
on.
Jay has his hand up.
This isn't about assessing, but we, as you guys know, we have, and ladies, we have a election coming up, so at some point, are we going to have maybe the town clerk come in and
Yeah,
speak to us?
on
or-
the agenda, we're still in the process of taking, first of all, we don't even have a venue yet. It hasn't been confirmed or not
No, I
confirmed,
saw
but,
an email that Pollard has said
Okay.
that it's okay.
okay, well, because I got a little bit of a different story from Martha, who wasn't sure about that, so,
An email yesterday
All
that
right.
said that it was from a school board member. It was
All right, from
Ms.
Barbara?
Kiska,
All right.
who said that she inquired, and it was in an email.
Okay.
That the school has said that it will be okay to use the Pollard because the teachers are having a, what do the teachers
Conference, all
have?
right.
They have some kind of.
Yeah,
Conference?
PD day, yeah.
Yeah, they have some
Okay.
other day so that it won't interfere, but that the November one, they weren't able to forecast that one.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of other things that are up in the air, because, you know, a number
Professional
of
Development
people
Day.
Yep.
are probably wanting to do absentee ballots, and so we don't want to overwhelm the system. And actually, September is going to be a good kind of dress rehearsal for all of us, because it's going to allow us to do this social distancing, you know, all this other happy stuff that we have to do for November, because November is going to be a landslide. So until I get all my facts straight, I don't want to keep giving you stuff and changing the, you know, the places here. So give me a chance to get all the facts, and I got to talk to Bob Harb and a whole bunch of other people and say, okay, what have we got and what are we doing? And then I will bring it to you guys. Go ahead,
Yeah, I
Jillian.
think what I wanted to say is, you just kind of said at the end, this is all in the control of the town moderator, which is Bob
Right,
Harb.
right.
And he's on top of it. And
Oh,
there's
okay,
a
good.
difference between this election, which is the small election,
Yeah.
versus the larger election. And the problem is the social distancing in the lines, and how
Yeah.
long the lines are
Yep,
going to be, so
yep.
you're not outside somewhere waiting in a line in the rain. So it's a matter of how many people are going to show up, how do you control the lines to keep social distancing, depending on how the COVID thing
Yeah.
is going?
Yeah.
And the size of the facility and what's available. And I know that Mark is working with Mr. Harb, and they're working with the school because we use the school building
Right.
usually.
Right.
And I think it looks like it's just going to be a Pollard this time and nothing will change because this is the small, a lot of people don't show up at a lot for the primaries. So it's not a large crowd. But the September election is going to be, not the September, but the November
It's
election.
going to be huge, yeah.
That's a huge election usually with a lot of people, and they're going to have to figure out what to do then.
Right.
So-
And the other issue, too, is that a lot of our clerks are elderly, and is that what you wanted
That's
to
what I was
mention?
gonna say,
Okay, yeah, and some of them have already, indicated that they do not want to participate. So that means they're going to.
We need some volunteers.
Martha's going to be calling on us to kind of fill the gap. So, be patient with me, and until, I really don't want to give you guys information until I'm sure of what I have, because I don't, like I said, I want to talk out of school.
Right.
So give me some time, and we should go over all of that in plenty of time for the September election as well, okay? All right, any other stuff we need to discuss before we go into non-public? All right, so.
There's one thing.
Just one more thing.
Since
Okay,
I'm
go
the
ahead.
new guy, the primary representative to the Budget Committee this year,
Oh, yes,
and I don't want to wait till the last minute,
okay.
and I want to represent the board, but I don't
Yes.
like going to a board meeting, so I have to wait 2 weeks to go talk to the board and see what they want. So if you kind of, guys, the rest of the board could kind of input to me, not necessarily all at once, what are the things or the goals that you want to see in the budget so that I could represent you at the meeting without having to say, I have to wait till I ask them every time?
Sure. We
Because
can do
that's
that
something that
for
just
you.
always annoyed me at the meeting. I can't
Yep.
answer that because I don't know what the board's going to say.
Right.
But if I know generically what you're looking for, I can vote on
a
something
great
without
point.
having to
That's a
wait
great
2
point.
weeks.
Yep,
Because
yep.
it kind of holds things up when you got one vote that's waiting all the time.
All right.
So I
Yep,
want to
we can
represent the
definitely
board, but
do
I also
that.
don't want to be hand-tied, like feeling like an idiot at a board meeting.
Okay, no problem, we can do that for you.
So I just want to ask that of the rest of the board.
Sure, I'm sure you guys will all be
Whether it be verbal
okay with that.
or email or whatever.
All right, well, until Greg and I get together with Mark and Greg and figure out what we're going to do for next year, and then the budget will come to us, and we will make our adjustments, and then we will give you directions, and I think that's a nice, smooth process.
And the first meeting is August 18th.
It is,
That I know.
okay.
18th.
It is, okay, great. All right, and they have to actually choose chairs and vice chairs and reorganize their
And if you have a
department.
choice for who you would like to be for the chair, let me know
No,
at that time,
I mean, I personally don't.
or else I'd
but-
have to abstain.
All right, okay.
Oh, I know
Any more
there's a
business?
couple open spots, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but that's their responsibility to provide their own.
3 or 4?
Just
Three.
letting the
There's
public
three-
know
there's
if
three
anyone's
slots.
interested.
Is there three? I'm sorry, what, Jay?
Just letting the public know if they're interested
Yeah,
in being
yeah,
on the
we could
budget
use
committee.
budget committee
There's
members,
open
yeah.
spots.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this is
So-
your chance. If you're concerned about your taxes and the expenditures in the town,
Yeah.
you have a voice. If
Yep,
you-
the budget committee has the sole authority
Volunteer.
to
Don't
appoint
complain.
their members.
Volunteer.
So there's 3 vacant slots?
I
Is that what you're
believe
saying?
so. I believe so. But I could be wrong.
So-
But
so-
that's up to the board chair, whoever that chair is going to
understand.
be, to appoint their members, not us. Okay, all right, so we are going to, I would like to put a motion on the floor, to have someone put a motion on the floor to enter into non-public, and I'm guessing, I don't know, Mark, reputation, we're going to be discussing a number of
I would say reputation.
reputation C, so if someone could put a motion on the floor, and I could have a roll call to do that?
Okay, I'll put a motion on the floor to enter non-public under RSA 91-A:32C.
C.
Okay, may I have a second on that? All right, Beth, could you give me a roll call? Yes.
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 Mrs. Roche.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to adjourn our public meeting at 8:20 PM, and we are going to go into non-public at 8:21 PM. So good night, everyone. Thank you. We will not be returning to public session. All right, so good night.